I'm Leah Austin, Director of the Center for the Study of Childcare Employment at the University of California, Berkeley. Here at the center, our mission is to improve the status and well-being of the early care and education workforce through research, policy development, and prioritizing the experiences of educators themselves. Every week, our groundbreaking research is cited by policymakers, journalists, and advocates, including, for example, Senator Warren's recent letter to Congress on childcare infrastructure, which cited us numerous times. Every day across the country, though, early educators are leaving their jobs for the same reason: low pay and poor working conditions. Before the pandemic, they were struggling, with childcare workers earning an average of just $11.65 an hour. Even in high-cost states like California, where I live, the average pay is under $15 an hour, driving educators to leave and earn more at places like Target, Amazon, and McDonald's. Parents, businesses, and children are then left in the lurch. The economy can't work unless childcare works, and childcare can't work without its teachers. COVID forced people to understand that childcare is essential, bringing more attention and funding than we've seen in decades. Yet the women who are the backbone of childcare too often remain invisible and unsupported. Through our research, we know that 97% of educators identify as women and about 40% are persons of color. And for generation after generation, the historic undervaluing and underpayment of their labor has been the result of our nation's early care and education policies. In our biennial Early Childhood Workforce Index and related research, we've identified key and really often troubling features of early education employment. For example, 98% of other occupations in this country are paid more than childcare workers. This workforce is experiencing poverty at rates that are on average 8 times higher than that of their K-8 counterparts. In no state do the average wages of early educators meet the living wage for one adult with just one child. And there are troubling racial inequities in job opportunities and pay. Latina educators, we know, are overrepresented in assistant teaching roles, which pay lower wages. And Black educators are systematically paid less than their peers, to the tune of 78 cents less per hour. And it's under these conditions that educators entered the pandemic. And while relief has come, it was a full year before the first substantial round of funding for the sector was available. And for many, that was just too late. Since March of 2020, more than 135 jobs in the sector have been lost. Thousands of spaces for young children have been lost, and childcare programs that are trying to open or expand are having trouble staffing up. If we want a stable and effective childcare system, we must invest in the women who have held this system together and transform early childhood jobs into good jobs for them. Here at the center, we have spent the last 22 years keeping a spotlight on the unacknowledged labor of childcare workers. Policy leaders, for example, the Democratic Women's Caucus and the Department of Education, state administrators, and many others have relied on our data and analysis to inform their perspectives and policies. We have led the sector in workforce-centered research and remain the only national center whose mission is solely focused on the conditions of early educators. Our seminal 2014 report, Worthy Work, Still Unlivable Wages, served as a tipping point for advocates and policymakers to call for reform. And our policy recommendations in the time of COVID have been among our most accessed resources. We seek support for our national and multi-state research, especially future editions of the Workforce Index, which our federal and state governments are using now to shape their childcare policy. And future editions of the index will tell us how we're progressing and also where we're falling short. And it will continue to identify policies for a system that works for children, for families, and works for educators. We are a small but highly effective organization. With only 18 staff members, we've made a real impact nationally and across states. Yet there is much more to do. And we're at a turning point. There is no going back to pre-2020 conditions to mend the early care and education system we once had. That system was built on the backs of millions of women providing the services and the poverty level wages paid to them. So we're seeking funding for the next iteration of the Workforce Index, as well as additional staff to strengthen our capacity. And your support will enable us to continue to be leaders in documenting and shaping how our nation prepares, supports, and compensates our early care and education workforce. I invite you and encourage you to come and meet with us and learn more about the breadth and depth of our work. Thank you.